What's going on, guys? So in front of me you have a bunch of power drills, and before you click off of this video and think this has nothing to do with RVs, hang in there for a second, because I think this topic's going to be very relevant to several topics we've had recently regarding the quality of RVs, what you get for the price, and the perception of value. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so what is the point of today's video? Well, in front of you again, I have 5 power drills, and I specifically purchased these 3 over the last couple of days to make a point, and that point is directly related to value, because there's a lot of folks who would instantly recognize some of these brands as value-oriented brands or performance-oriented brands, and in some cases, you might look at some of these as a cheap Chinese knockoff or a generic brand that you would never have in your tool collection. And how this is specifically relevant to RVs is the fact that a lot of times we have this perception that because we spend money on something, it should have the same performance as anybody else who spends more or maybe gets a different brand because of some reputation that brand has. But ultimately, we like to believe that the value you get for the dollar you spend is always going to be more than the dollar you spend, right? You buy something and you're like, this thing should perform very well. So I recently posted a video talking about the expectations manufacturers of RVs likely have when it comes to constructing most RVs. What do I mean by that, right? We talked about that video, or we talked in that video about the fact that most people use an RV about 6 times per year, and they stay in it well under 30 nights per year. The typical trip is 3 to 4 days, and when you expand that out over 6 trips, you're really only talking maybe 20 to 24 days in a year that you are spending in your RV, which a lot of folks instantly would say, the value's not there. It's not something I should put my money into. But more importantly, understand from a manufacturing perspective what their thoughts might be. Now, the question is, do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but I do understand that to sell RVs at a certain price point, they're building them a certain way, understanding that 90 to 95% of RVers are only using them a few times each year. So if you're one of the rarities that uses your RV 15, 20, 30 times, or shoot, heaven forbid, lives in your RV, you are running the risk that the RV wasn't built specifically around how you use yours unless you went out to specifically buy one for that use case. So again, what does that have to do with drills? I think some people have probably figured out by now. First of all, let's talk about some of these drills you may not be familiar with. I think everyone is familiar with Craftsman and Milwaukee, and even DeWalt. I could have brought one of my DeWalt tools up here. And you could easily, instantly identify those as being reputable brands. But even amongst reputable brands, people are going to argue which one's better. There's some folks who will only use Milwaukee. That's the only tool they would ever own. There are some folks who will only use DeWalt or Makita or Festool or some of these high-end brands because there's a perception of quality and reliability that's associated with those brands. But what's also associated with those brands are relatively high prices. My son-in-law recently bought a set of Milwaukees. He actually bought this set with the drill driver combination. He paid $200 because they were on sale as a kit. And he said he wanted to get the best brand that was the cheapest price. And at the time, Milwaukee had a sale, or Lowe's or Home Depot had a sale on Milwaukee, and he was able to pick it up for a relatively good price. That said, though, even a low-cost Milwaukee can cost many times more than these other tools that are available if you search on Amazon or Alibaba or any of these other places, Temu, right? These websites where you can get stuff cheap. The question is, for those of you, and this is going to be a pretty easy to answer question, I think, for those of you who will only buy this brand or DeWalt, or maybe even Ryobi, which I think falls more in line towards like Craftsman, but will only buy these reputable brands, why do you buy them? it's probably because the value of the tool outweighs the cost to you. So if it's Ryobi and you're looking to save a little bit of money, plus you want to have a lot of compatibility with battery packs, or you're already sold into the battery pack, you know that Ryobi makes a good quality product at an affordable price. Similar to Craftsman. When you jump up to Milwaukee or DeWalt or Makita, you know that you're getting a tool that's perceived to be higher quality, probably has more power, probably has some more features. Its compactness might actually be the thing that sells you on it, but you are getting it because there's a legacy of reliability and quality associated with Milwaukee, along with power, right? There's a lot of reasons why somebody might want a DeWalt or a Milwaukee, even understanding the fact that they have lower and higher end lineups, right? You get this specific drill, it's about $100. You get this one, it's like $250. Big difference. And the perception of quality between this one and this one's actually about the same for most people. But they realize when you jump up to this one, you're moving to a more professional grade tool. Now, let's move to the other end here. So these are two brands that had pretty dang good reviews. They are very, very affordable. This one right here was $29, and it came as this little kit. And this one right here was $35, maybe $37, and it came with a little kit as well. This one's from Avid Power, and this one's from Belmire, I don't know. But we have two brands here, both 20-volt lithium drills. And if you just look at the specs, you might say, wow, they actually compete against these brands. They actually are designed, look, they're 20 volt, shoot, the Milwaukee's only 18 volt. So are these better? And from a marketing perspective, they might actually put some flashy advertisement up. They might put some cool pictures and comparisons comparing them to some competitor. Unlikely to be a super high-end competitor, but still they're comparing it to some competitor. And you may get something like this because you want to save some money. You might ultimately think that this is the better value. What idiot in their right mind would spend as much money as even a lower cost Milwaukee drill would be when you could get 3 of these for the same price as even the lower cost Milwaukee or DeWalt tool? So there's a lot of folks who could view it that way. But I think most people who understand tools understand that if I am the type of person that wants this tool, I probably want it not just because of the name, but because I think it will last longer and provide me more reliability and longevity over its life versus these tools. I think most people would probably say these tools aren't going to last very long. They're not going to be able to put in a huge lag bolt into, 6 inches of wood. They're not going to be able to perform to the level that these much more powerful, reputable, higher-end tools are designed to perform. You don't see a lot of comparison videos where somebody's taking these and pitting them up against Milwaukee, DeWalt, and Makita. You don't see that because these tools just aren't going to perform the same, but they're going to save you a lot of money. But the risk that you take is that you have a tool that you might have to replace relatively soon. That's only suitable for very light duty work. That's not going to give you the performance and the longevity that you might even think it should give you at that price point. When people RV shop, you have to realize there's a lot of similarities there. If you buy an RV knowing, and hopefully now you know, that manufacturers believe unless it's specific brands who specifically tailor to people who use their RVs more, and when I say use, I mean travel in. If you have an RV sitting on a piece of property and it just sits there and you don't tow it, there's not a heck of a lot of wear and tear that's taking place other than some maintenance things related to the roof, maybe related to your tanks, maybe related to your water system, maybe related to making sure everything is sealed up, things like that. But if it's sitting static, the suspension and the chassis are hardly ever being used. And if that's the case, the longevity of a full-time used RV that does not get towed around very often, maybe once or twice a year, or just sits in one spot its entire life, is really only dependent on the maintenance you put into the RV at that point. You can identify things quicker. When you take an RV and tow it down the road, you run the risk that things that weren't affecting it sitting still are now affecting it because you're towing it down the road. Debris hitting it, wind, rain, a small tear turning into a large tear, a bubbling in the roof turning into a big tear or a huge balloon, things like that. And when I talk to folks about what their expectations are from RV manufacturers, and I've been posting a lot of polls in the community section of my channel, so hit that subscribe button now so you get notified when I post a poll, because it gives not just me an idea of how you all actually RV, but it also gives you an idea of how other people RV and if their opinions, if their vote is similar to what you vote. If you think these numbers that we always talk about are way skewed, you get an opportunity to see what thousands of other people believe, what they think. And the clear message is, even though my poll isn't a perfect representation of the entire national RVing community, it's a nice slice, it's a good cut of it. And even in the polls, you see that there's an expectation that RVs should not go up in price because they're already overpriced, that the quality needs to skyrocket, the long-term dependability needs to skyrocket, and people aren't using them that often. That's clear from the polls. That's not me telling you. That's what the polls are saying, right? It's like over 80% of people who responded to the poll used their RV under 10 times each year. It was 1 to 5 or 6 to 10, and the vast majority were 1 to 5, and then the second majority was 6 to 10. And you combine the two together, it was like in the 80 percentile range. And when you look at that, plus the fact that people do not want the prices to go up, but they want the quality to skyrocket, you have to wonder at some point, where are you moving in the spectrum, right? If this is the drill that you bought and you get it and it doesn't perform the way you feel it should perform under normal use, it can't put a simple, 6-inch deck screw in, or maybe it can only put a couple of them in before it starts to go out, and then the battery starts to fail and it can't recharge real well because they use really cheap battery cells, whatever. But if you get this with the expectation it's going to perform even like this or like this, you're going to have this mentality, you're going to have an expectation that when in practice is not going to live up to it. That's what's going to happen. When you shop for RVs, I'm not saying go to the top of the spectrum and get the most expensive RV you can get. I'm not saying that that's what you need to do, because sometimes price is more associated to features than it is reliability. But we all know that there are brands out there that focus more on reliability, dependability, structure, strength, long-term longevity over luxury features, because we talked about that. There's some brands that are super plain on the inside, super utilitarian, yet they command very high prices, and everyone who talks about them says, I owned one, yes, there might have been some minor issues, but boy, the frame was super tough. Or boy, I never had to worry about cabinetry failing. I never had to worry about hinges failing. I never had to worry about these things because I planned on using my RV, or we use our RV, 50 times a year, and it's held up fine. But we specifically went with a certain brand that may not have had the most features. It may not have come with all this extra stuff. It may have only come with a bit. In some cases, it doesn't even come with a bit. It comes with a little belt hanger. But we paid more because we know it has a reputation for long-term reliability and dependability. We didn't get something that was cheap, that we got because maybe we didn't fully understand how RVs are manufactured. There's a big one. A lot of people get into it with the blind perception that everything you buy is going to be good. Everything you buy is going to be built really well, and it's going to meet your expectation. And maybe the salesperson at the dealership convinced you of that. Maybe you told them how often you really wanted to use it, and they're like, yeah, this thing will be perfect for that. Shoot, the tow vehicle you have is great. This is the perfect RV for you. He sold you this when you really needed at least this, or maybe this. But maybe you're like, you know what? Well, I don't want the cheapest, so I'm going to move up to something a little bit more. I'm paying a little bit more. And because I paid a little bit more, I expect it to be this or this, when we all know that neither of these are probably even close to this. Value. Think about it. There's so many folks out there who watch the channel who automatically know if you had to pick any of these tools because you wanted it to be valuable to you, you wanted to have dependency, reliability, longevity, you wanted good batteries, you wanted it to be compatible, you wanted to be able to use it and take it somewhere and know that it's not going to fail you, you would probably either get these or DeWalt or Makita, and maybe you might get this or Ryobi or Porter Cable if they're still around, or other brands that are similar to this, but you probably wouldn't buy these. These are the brands that you get, I hate to say this, but you get your friend who has no power drill, who's never used anything in their life, and they have no expectation because they'll probably not even use the tool. They might use it to hang a picture. They might use it to remove a socket so they can, I don't know, do something and hopefully not electrocute themselves. Those are the people who buy these. Those are the people who want something like this, because I sure as heck wouldn't keep these in my truck because I don't trust that they would work when I need them to work. And I wouldn't buy these if it weren't for this demonstration I'm trying to show you. So again, we're talking about something where I could get, what, roughly 9 of these for the price of one of these. I could get 7 or 8 of these for the price of one of these. I could get 3 of these for the price of one of these. I could get 2 of these for the price of this one. And we know when we get higher end tools that we can trust them, that we know the reliability is going to be there. So when you're looking at that $25,000 travel trailer, stick and tin, it doesn't really even matter, stick and tin or fiberglass if you find one, and you're like, this is going to be perfect. And then you tell the sales rep that, you know what, we want to go out every other week. We want to spend a week traveling on the road. We want this thing to be our getaway, and we're going to use it a lot. Think about what you're buying. Is this really the tool that's going to give you the return on investment you're looking for? Or maybe this is. If you're not looking at the tools that are better built, better designed, better engineered, more importantly, designed for longevity and reliability, then you may be shopping the wrong type of RV for yourself and your family. If you specifically want the best possible experience you can have, you shouldn't be shopping for this type of RV. You should be shopping for maybe this one, but probably these. If you're only going to use it a few times a year and you want the best possible quality out of that RV, maybe you shop for something like this. Anyways, guys, I know there's going to be a lot of people out there who think this is a really dumb comparison, but I do think there's a lot of people out there who will totally get it. And I know most people who can afford something like this will just get something like this, even if they have a cheaper travel trailer or RV, because we're not talking about the same price category. But what's very similar here is the perception you get when you're buying something at a certain price and what you get for that price. And this is a really good example of that. Anyways, guys, leave a comment below. I only bought these 3 drills right here for this video. I'm not even kidding you. It was the only purpose of this video when I got these 3. These 2 I wouldn't trust these, to be honest with you. And it's just the whole point of you get what you pay for. Understand where you need to be to get what you specifically want to pay for. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.